Today we're making this super cute quilted zipper pouch with boxed corners and a handle. It's a perfect size for any on-the-go item, and I'm making this specifically for my Sony ZV1. There are also side pockets so that I can put my camera's wind muff, SD card holders, and other adapters as necessary. Let's get started. You will need canvas fabric or any thicker fabric like denim, felt for the padding, thin fabric like linen, cotton, or polyester, a zipper, sewing machine, pins and or sewing clips, pencil and or sewing chalk, scissors, a ruler, and optionally scrap paper to draft your pattern before you cut your fabric. I started this project by drafting with some scrap paper first how big I wanted it to be, because I had a very specific vision for this bag. I only wanted it to carry my camera and a couple of other accessories. So you're welcome to do this. If not, you can just follow my dimensions and instructions at this timestamp. Also, I am showing footage from two different bags that I made. I made them back to back because the one with the black zipper was a little too small for what I needed. But if you're confused why there's two zippers, that is why. So your canvas rectangle, 1 to 2 felt rectangles, and lining fabric rectangle should all be 13 by 9.5 inches. And I have 2 lining fabrics just because I thought my lining was too thin. I have 2 felt layers because I just wanted more protection, but you're welcome to use 1 or even a different type of fabric. Now you just want to stack your felt with your canvas and pin or clip these layers together. Next, I sewed about 1/4 inch away from one of the short ends of the rectangle, just a straight line so that the fabric layers would stay together, but I found this step to be kind of unnecessary, so you can just skip to the next step, which is to sew all the way straight down the middle the length of your fabric. I'm using my ruler to mark out half of each rectangle and then half of that, and you'll see what I mean in a second. I'm just making strips basically along the length of the fabric, and this will become kind of my quilted part in essence. And this quilted part serves a dual function. It is both aesthetic, and also it will keep our felt layers and our canvas layer together. I didn't film all of the sewing, but this is what it looks like at the end. Make sure to back tack on both ends so that it's secure. Now I'm just taking the time to cut off any excess felt that goes beyond the canvas size. Next, I cut 2 lining fabric rectangles that measure 4.75 by 3.75 inches for the pockets. And here I'm just ironing the edges over twice so that they'll be nice and neat, and this will attach to the lining fabric ultimately. I found this size to be optimal for my SD card holder and my wind muff, but of course you're welcome to adjust this pocket size as you see fit. Using my paper mock-up, I marked out where I wanted the pockets and I cut out rectangles so that I could trace these rectangles onto my lining fabric. This is an optional step, but I just wanted to make sure I liked where my pockets would end up. Before you attach your pockets to your lining fabric, you'll want to finish the top edge of the pocket, and this is what it should look like before you pin it to your lining fabric. Next, you'll want to pin your pockets to your lining fabric, and we're going to only sew the left, bottom, and right sides of the pocket so that it's open. And you'll notice that I'm facing the opening of the pockets away because the bag will then fold in and then they'll stand up straight and be facing the upward correct direction. So here I am only sewing the right, bottom, and left sides of both pockets. Now that you're done sewing the felt to your canvas and the pockets to both layers of lining, this is what you should have. We will now embark on perhaps the most difficult part of this project, which is sewing the zipper on. and so I switched my foot from a regular presser foot to a zipper foot. Lay down your quilted canvas sheet and then place your zipper on top of that and leave a bit of room on the sides because we can adjust where exactly the zipper will start and end after we attach. So clip that first and then lay your lining on top. Just to say again, the right side of the canvas is facing up, the zipper is facing down on that right edge, and then the lining will go right side facing down. This is just to show you the stack again. I have my lining right side facing down, my zipper facing downwards, and then the canvas right side facing up. And you can really take your time with this because you want to make sure it's all perfectly aligned on that right edge. And now we'll sew a straight line next to the zipper. And I like to mark with a pencil or chalk where I'm going to sew because I just have trouble sewing straight lines. But if you're more skilled than me, then of course feel free not to. I'm leaving about 1 to 2 millimeters of space between my sewing line and where the zipper teeth are, which you'll see perhaps a little bit better in the next clip. So here you see I'm just sewing very slowly along the pencil mark that I did, which is 1 to 2 millimeters to the right of the zipper teeth. This is what it should look like when you're done sewing. It looks pretty clean on this side, and you see it is close, but not that close to the zipper teeth, which is what we want. And now we're gonna flip this and press the zipper down like so. So lining down, then the zipper is gonna get flipped, and then the thick canvas and felt part is gonna have a little bit of a fold down. And just press that down. And now after we press it down, we're gonna top stitch this along the zipper again. So this time it'll be sort of decorative, but also to make sure that the canvas doesn't move anymore. So again, you can go very slowly just to make sure you don't skip any stitches and it's a straight line. For this part, I switched back to my regular presser foot because it was more important that everything lay flat, and I had already really gotten close to the zipper on the previous stitch. I'm stopping right at the edge here. Always remember to backstitch a couple times so your threads don't come loose. Now this is what you should have, the nice top stitch along the canvas. We're gonna bring the canvas part up and we're gonna line up that right edge of the felt canvas fabric to the edge of the zipper. And this took me a couple tries just because the fabric was a little thicker, but just be patient and you want to make sure it aligns just right with the zipper edge. Clip everything in place and then flip your whole project over and fold the lining fabric so it's going to hit the other side of the zipper edge. Pin the lining in place so that things don't move around. Just as before, I'm marking a straight line along the left side of the zipper now, and I'll just sew along that so that the lining plus the canvas fabric can be correctly attached to the zipper. Sew along that pencil mark that we just marked, and keep in mind that this is the other side of the zipper, so you're hoping to be again about 1 to 2 millimeters away from the zipper teeth, because you want it to appear even at the very end. After that, you should have something that looks like this, which sort of looks like 2 tubes, and it is attached in the middle by the zipper. We will now reach through the tube to unzip the zipper so that we can top stitch the other side of the canvas like we just did. So unzip and flip your pouch inside out like this, so we can have the canvas on the outside and the lining on the inside as it should be. Something I noticed with this black zipper pouch, which I made first, was that because the zipper length was just right, it became a little bit difficult to flip it inside out like this. So in the next clip, which will be the white zipper pouch, you'll see that, it just becomes easier to press out with the iron because the zipper is longer. So I have more leeway. I can actually make it flat. And yeah, so overall, I recommend having a slightly longer zipper than you need for the size that you're making. And I'm just going to take it to my iron to press it out again. Same deal as before, so that we can top stitch along the canvas and really nail down that zipper. I'm top stitching along the edge of the canvas as before, so that it lays flat against the zipper. And as you can see by the zipper kind of dangling off the end of my sewing machine, it's just a lot easier if your zipper is a little bit bigger, like I said, so that I can also sew this part and have my pouch draped on the left side and push through my sewing machine more smoothly. After that top stitch, this is what you should have. And when you zip up the pouch, this is what it should look like. So 2 nice top stitches along the zipper, and we open it, the lining is there, and this part is still open, and we will fix that in the next step. The next step, some reason I don't have footage of it, but as you can see, the inside is now on the outside, and the outside is now on the inside. So it was like this, and after unzipping, you just need to flip this the other way and then zip it back up, so the zipper will be on the inside. And I'm marking the center line of the lining so that we can press down like so. After marking that center line, I'm pressing it down so that it meets the zipper, and ideally I want this line to match up perfectly with the center of the zipper. And after I'm happy with the positioning, I'll clip everything in place. And we'll sew a straight stitch along both sides. So after sewing those 2 straight stitches, this is what it should look like. If you have leftover zipper like I do, you can just cut it now. At this point, it might also be a good idea for you to backstitch a couple times at the zipper ends. I forgot to do this, but it will be better for you in the long run. We will now step away momentarily from the bag to work on the handle. So this piece of canvas fabric is about 3 by 9 inches, but honestly, I think it could be shorter, maybe 8 or 7 inches. I was just scared it wouldn't be long enough, but if you want longer handle, go longer. And you just can press this in half, hot dog style, open it, and then fold both edges towards the center, like so. Iron it out again, and then you're gonna press that in half. So at the end of the day, if you started out with 3 inches, the final width should be about 3/4 of an inch. To sew the handle together, I'm gonna sew just 2 straight lines all the way down. I'm sewing the side that is open first, and then I'm turning it around to sew the other side just so that it's even. You should have this at the end, and of course cut your loose threads. Now we're going to take something with a 90-degree angle and mark a triangle on the ends of our handle, and we're going to cut out 2 corners of the triangle. This shape will then fit really nicely into our boxed corners. Make sure to do this for both ends of the handle. While your iron is still hot, we can prepare some other fabrics so that we can finish some raw edges of our bag. Here I just have a 4 centimeter wide lining fabric, the same as that I used for my lining. And then it is just super long because I don't know for sure what all the dimensions of my raw edges are yet. So here I am just doing the same process, fold it in half hot dog style, press it in half just like the handle, and then fold those 2 edges into the center seam that we just created with the iron. Now to return back to the pouch, you have your little pouch pancake here, very cute, but there are still raw edges on both sides. And I didn't do this because I forgot, but I think you should do it so that your bag looks nice on the inside. But basically we're gonna wrap the raw edges with that lining fabric that we just ironed out. The demo here that you're seeing is from a later process of the bag, but the concept is the exact same. So you're gonna have that lining fabric measured to that raw edge, maybe like 1 to 2 centimeters longer, and then we're gonna wrap the short ends around like this, and then fold the long edge downwards so that it's fully wrapped. And then we'll just clip and then sew along that edge. The fabric is a little thick, so it might take you a couple fiddles like this. And at this point, it might also be a good idea to change the thickness of your needle so that it doesn't break. When you're done wrapping and sewing the raw edges, we can get to the boxed corners. The boxed corners are essentially going to take our 2D bag and make it 3D. So right now, I'm going to mark squares that measure 1.75 by 1.75 inches on every single corner, and then also connect the diagonal from the corner of the bag to the corner of the square that I've drawn. And I'm doing this on both sides of the bag, both on the back side and the zipper side, so that when I press the diagonals together, they will form a straight line, and I won't have to do a lot of later guesswork. And notice that my 1.75 inches starts at the seam, not at the complete edge of the fabric. So here I'm just pressing along those diagonals, and you see that the squares that we just drew are giving us a pretty nice guideline for where to fold, and I'm just going to clip those in place. Repeat for all 4 corners, but don't sew yet. We need to figure out how the handle fits in. This is my camera bag a couple months after I made it, so still holding up well, but basically you want to decide if the zipper head is going to be on the same side or the opposite side of your handle. So honestly, if I were to do this again, I think I would put the zipper maybe on the same side as the handle so that I could hold onto the handle as I'm opening it. But you know, to hold on to close it is also an option, so decide. So I already inserted one of my triangular corners of the handle into this side and sewed it down, but I cut down the handle, right, because originally I recommended something like 9 inches, but I cut it down pretty significantly because I didn't want such a long handle. But again, I'm doing the same 90-degree tool, marking it and cutting it. Once I have it cut and I like the length, I'm going to slot the triangle so that it lines up perfectly with the diagonals that we drew earlier. And this is what it should look like. Your handle should be parallel to the short end of your bag. Once you're happy with the positioning, pin everything, and then you can sew along that blue line that you see, that horizontal blue line. At this point, I kind of had to wrestle the piece under the presser foot and the machine because there are so many layers. So just be careful, especially when you're going over the handle part, because there's an additional 4 layers of canvas because we folded the handle so many times. I also backstitched a couple times over the handle, even though it was super thick, just to reinforce it, because if we're going to be holding onto it, we don't want anything to fall off. If you've made it this far, congrats, you're almost there. We have these 4 triangle flanges sticking out, so I'm just going to cut it, and then we are going to wrap the raw edges with the same method that I showed a little bit earlier, with the lining fabric wrapping all 4 sides of each raw edge. I will speed run narrate this footage because I know I already showed this to you guys, but it's the same thing. We're wrapping the edges and then we're folding that top edge downwards so that we can fully wrap the raw edge. I wrapped all 4 edges before I sewed, and it's looking like this weird spiky ball, but yeah, just sewing down the line. When you're done, this is what you should have. I know the inside is not that beautiful. You could use a more matching thread, but I just figured, you know, it's on the inside, only I'm gonna see it. So yeah, the next thing you have to do is unzip this bag with a little bit of difficulty. You kind of have to dig your finger in there and flip it inside out. And this is what you will have. I recommend, especially flipping inside out, focusing your fingers on the corners, because if you flip it inside out, you know, holding the sides of the fabric, you're gonna test the seams a lot more. But yeah, this is your camera bag or whatever else you want to put in there. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.